Hey, okay, you know what time it is. Time to learn some Photoshop basics for artists. This is Photoshop for Artists. I'm Kyle Webster, and I'm glad that you're here to join me for the second episode of this new series. Now, a lot of you out there use Photoshop day in and day out, and a lot of the information I'm sharing with you on this program is probably stuff you already know. But every now and then, I might share a little keyboard shortcut or some little tool or trick or technique that surprises you, and you can stick that in your back pocket and have it ready to go. For the rest of you out there who've never used Photoshop or who are brand new to Photoshop and want to do digital drawing and digital painting, this course is really aimed squarely at you. Because what we want to do is get you feeling comfortable with the basic tools that are required to make images, okay? And the way that I'm teaching this series is jumping right in with the good stuff that will make you efficient. In other words, we're learning keyboard shortcuts as we talk about the tools so that you can very efficiently move through creating an image without having to, if possible, take your hand off of the act of drawing with your stylus, moving it over to your tools, and selecting different tools. If at all possible, we want to make it as fast and as easy for you as we can to stay in that zone where you're creating your illustration and you've got one hand with the fingers working their magic on the keyboard while the other is simply drawing with a brush, okay? That is where we are trying to take everybody from zero to that, okay? And yesterday, I was thinking about how to pick up this course for the second episode without trying to overwhelm anybody. And I've decided that I'm going to stick with about the same pace as what I did in the last episode where we talked a little bit about your selection tools, okay? We also talked a bit about how layers work, and we shared a few key commands for navigating your canvas. And we're going to review those very quickly today and jump right back in with more selections, only this time we're going to talk about some fantastic stuff you can do with selections, which will involve being able to move those selections around, transform parts of or all of a layer, and then we'll finish with actually creating a small illustration to demonstrate how powerful just these very few tools are when you use them together and when they're combined with the keyboard shortcuts. Okay. Hey everybody, nice to see you. Rob, been using Photoshop since it was called Barney Scan XP. Don't know anything about that. All right, nice to see you. Hey Christelle, hi Clever, hi Sam, hi Gareth, and Robert. Folks who are joining me over here, RB, what's up? Over on Behance, I'm following the chat over there. If you're watching over on YouTube, that's awesome. I'm just not following both chats, but thanks for joining all the same, okay? So let's get cracking. I'm going to move on over to Photoshop here. We've got a nice blank document, and I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger. And that's going to be our first tip of the day, making my canvas bigger. Kyle, how did you just do that? Well, here's the secret, folks. The crop tool in Photoshop has a misleading name. Cropping normally means that you are going to take something and you're going to crop in. You're going to make it smaller, okay? But in Photoshop, the beautiful thing about the crop tool is you can actually enlarge your canvas with it as well. Now, to access the crop tool, all you have to do is hit the letter C. Big surprise there. When you hit the letter C, you are engaging with the crop tool. And what you can do, if you remember from last time, we talked about zooming in and zooming out using the keyboard. So holding down my space bar means I can move around, okay, with my canvas. But holding down the space bar combined with the Option key means I'm going to zoom out, or combined with the Command key means I can zoom in. And remember, for the PC users out there, for the Windows users out there, every time I say Command, I want you to think Control. And every time I say Option, I want you to think Alt. Those are the keyboard keys that you'll be using if you're on those operating systems, okay? So, again, moving around, zooming in, zooming out, that's all great, but I've decided that I want to make my canvas bigger. What do? Well, I've got the crop tool selected, C, right? What I can do is I can drag from the corner and select the entire image, okay? And here what we have are called handles, okay? The corners and along the edges right there. Now I'm going to zoom out for a moment, give myself plenty of room, and look what happens. I can pull from any of these corners or edges, and I can expand the size of the canvas. And now here's a little magic moment for you. Remember, keyboard commands make everything better. So I'm going to show you something cool you can do here. I'm going to Command Z until I get back to where I'm more in the center of the image. Actually, I'll hit Escape. I'm going to get out of this altogether. Escape's going to get me out of cropping. Let's do this one more time. I'm going to select the entire area of the canvas. And now here comes that magic keyboard key for you. It is the Option key. If I hold down the Option key, remember on PC that's Alt, and I select any one of these corners or one of these edges, watch what happens. Now we are moving outwards from the centering. You'll notice that the other areas of the boundaries of my selection are moving simultaneously. Okay, so we are expanding from the center. This is really good, okay, if you want to keep your image centered as you expand your canvas, like so, okay? To commit, you just hit the Return key, I hit Enter or Return, and there you go. Now, you'll notice I have this issue where part of my background is now transparent, okay? What do? Well, you may remember last time we talked about filling a selection with color. And the fastest way to do that is with the keyboard commands, using Option Delete to fill for foreground color or Command Delete to fill for background color. And so I see that my background color is white. If I hit Command Delete, it fills the entire area of the canvas with white. Why did it fill the entire canvas? Well, I did not have any specific area selected. Okay, remember that. Now I'm going to make a new layer. Okay, and look at the difference here. If I hit M, remember that's for my marquee tool, right? I'm going to select an area here. Oh, whoops, I've got my fancy little plugin, my Lasso plugin. Hey folks, quick plug. If you don't know about this plugin I made, it's really cool. It makes it so that you can fill any area with color with the Lasso tool instantly. Lasso tool or any other selection tool, marquee tool, etc. I just turned it off there. Enabled, disabled. Okay, so normally you make a selection, okay? And remember what I told you last time, if I move my cursor inside of the selection, I can then move that selection around on my canvas, all right? And to fill with color, Option Delete, foreground color, Option Delete. And when I do that, it only fills the area that was selected. Now I've deselected, Command D, okay, which means nothing currently is selected on this layer. And so just as before when I filled that whole layer with white, if I were now to hit Option Delete to fill with the foreground color of this sort of red color here, watch what happens. It's going to fill the entire canvas, okay? Command Z, I'm going to undo that. All right, so there you go. Those are the distinctions there. If you have an area selected and you use the Option Delete or Command Delete, you're going to fill the selected area with color. Nothing selected, you use those keyboard commands, boom, it just washes the whole thing in with color. Alrighty, there you go. Now, last time we talked about the elliptical marquee and the rectangular marquee as your selection tool options. Talked about making selections. We talked about adding to a selection. All right, so take a look at that. Here's that first selection I made. If you hold down the Shift key, what happens? You can add to your selection, okay? As I said before, think of the Shift key as usually serving one of two functions, okay? An additive function of some kind, adding to something, or a precision function of some kind. You're having to do something that's precise. We're going to see that come up time and again as we move forward, okay, with the Shift key. But in this case, it's additive, right? Now, if I hit Command D and deselect all that, I have no selections whatsoever, okay? And then I go to draw a rectangular selection, but I want it to be a perfect square. Remember from last time that if I hold down the Shift key first and then begin to draw, well, see what happens? It's constrained to a perfect square, all right? Now, another interesting thing you might want to learn here, when we were using the crop tool, we were able to expand our canvas, okay, or we could contract it, using the Option key to scale in or out from the center of the document. Well, the interesting thing is a lot of these little key commands and tricks you learn that are applied to one tool sometimes are transferable to other tools. And so, in this case, where we're able to do this with the crop tool, we're also able to use that functionality with the Lasso tool, or, excuse me, with the rectangular marquee tool. Don't worry, we'll get to the Lasso tool. So, when I hold down the Shift key and drag, you notice that I'm dragging from the corner, okay, to build my selection. I'm going to undo that for a moment and watch this. I'm going to hold down the Option key first and start to draw. Now look, I'm expanding from the center. Now if I hold the Shift key down simultaneously, I'm able to draw a square from that center point. Okay, just like that. So again, this is giving me a really good area to control how and where I draw my selection. Alrighty? Now, if you do already have an area selected, you may recall from last time as well that the Option key serves a different function. Once there is an active selection here on my canvas, holding down the Option key is going to do what? Well, I get a little clue as to what's going to happen, because the moment I hold that Option key down, if you look at my cursor, okay, I have my normal sort of broken apart plus sign, and in the bottom right corner of that there is a tiny little minus sign, a little subtraction sign. That tells me that if I then make a selection here, I'm going to be cutting out or deleting part of the selection. So Shift, additive, Option, subtractive. Okay? These are some things we covered last time. It's good to cover them again. To toggle between my rectangular and my elliptical marquee, I hold down the Shift key and hit M. This is going to bounce me back and forth between the two. Now that I'm on the elliptical one, I can hold down the Shift and I can draw circles, okay, etc. There you go. And I can hit Option Delete and fill all that in with color. Okay, Command A, select everything, delete, it's all gone. All right, so that's a lot of what we covered last time, moving around, zooming in and out, being able to make selections, add to the selections, subtract from those selections, and so on. We're going to get to some pretty good stuff here. Let's make a selection, okay, and fill it with color. Option Delete. Now, watch this. We haven't done this yet. Let's make a selection where we have grabbed a part of the pixel data that we have here, okay, which is this ellipse. And now, if you remember from last time, the Command key temporarily calls up what? The Move tool, okay? That's this tool right here, the very first one. I'm going to hold down the Command key, and I'm just going to tap in here and drag. And look at that. Now I'm able to take part of that first ellipse that I drew, select it, and move it to a different location. So now we're talking about moving items. Now if I hold down the Command key with nothing selected, I move all the contents of that layer at the same time, okay? But I can be really picky. I can make a selection. I'll hold down the Shift key this time for a perfect circle, okay? And whoops, I'm making a circle, and now for some reason oh, there we go. Okay, I didn't mean to do that. Hang on, sorry. I held down the Shift key. I didn't mean to do that. And now I've cut out another little section of that, okay? So this is going to be pretty fun. You're able to create a shape, move elements of it anywhere, all over the canvas, simply by selecting them and then moving them, okay? But let's take this a step further, okay? One of the things I mentioned at the top of the first episode of this series was that when you're working with digital art, the thing you're trying to do as often as possible is work in what we call a non-destructive way. And what I mean by that is you should always have options to sort of time travel back through the image and get back any information you had, or remain flexible in such a way that you're not completely deleting information along the way that you can't later recover, okay? And so what I just did a moment ago was I selected these areas and moved them around. But remember that I'm doing that all on one layer, okay? So the fact that I'm doing that all on one layer means the only way to return back to where I was before, okay, and to have flexibility with these extra elements is to undo. So I have to undo, 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 and now I'm back to where I was, okay? Command-Shift-Z, redo, 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 redo. So if I were interested, for example, in grabbing this area here and moving it over here, what if I later wanted to do something else with that same element? I wouldn't want to have to go in and painstakingly make sure I selected it right up against the edge, okay? So what I can do instead, and here's a really handy key command for you all, is once you've made a selection of any part of a layer, you can hit Command-J or Control-J. And it looks like nothing happened, okay? But if you look at my layer stack, it's added a layer. And the layer that it has added only contains the area that I selected. So now what I've done is I've taken this selection right here and I've created a separate layer for it. All right, and there it is now. In the same way with the circle, if I wanted to do that, I could grab this section here, okay, and hit Command-J. And once again, it creates a brand new layer, and now I have that element there. But my original ellipse remains unchanged. Additionally, it's great that I now have, if I show and hide them, I have these other elements on their own separate layers. I can do with them what I want and not worry about them being part of that original content, okay? Now, I'm going to teach you a really, really handy-dandy trick, okay? And this is one of those advanced things. I love to jump into the advanced stuff as soon as possible, and I'm using the word advanced with quotations because I'm not sure why people wait to teach folks this kind of stuff later down the road. I want you to learn the most efficient way to work with these tools right from the get-go, okay? And here's a really great trick. You can make an active selection of any layer contents, okay? So for example, this layer right here, okay, it's got a little circle on it, right? Now let's say I'm committed to this decision that I'm going to have the circle here and I'm going to have it cut out of this circle here, okay, this ellipse. Well, what I can do is I can make a selection of that. And to do so, I hold down the Command key or the Control key on PC. Hold it down, and if you look at your layer, right, it's got a component here which is the thumbnail preview of the layer. And to the right it has a title where you could type in whatever you want. If you hold down the Command key and tap on the little thumbnail, see that? It has now made a selection. There's that selection. It's made a selection of the layer contents. So I can move that over here, come back to the layer that contains that ellipse, and I can hit delete right there. Okay? I can do the same thing with this little guy right here. Here's that layer. Hold down the Command key and tap on that little thumbnail preview. I can move this over here. And now another trick for you all to get really precise. I want to get this in just the right spot, okay? So what I'm going to do is use the keyboard keys for the arrows to slide it over to the right, slide it up a hair, Okay, that looks about right. Got it right where I want. I come back to that original ellipse and hit delete. Command D, and now deselected. And there you go. So now I've got this shape to where I want it, and I've got these two separate shapes. So I've got 3 separate layers with these components that I can then do some cool stuff with. So we already know that you can move things around, all right? Let's take a look at this guy, for example. I'm moving him around the canvas. He's his own thing, okay? We also know that you can change the color of any layer, okay, the layer contents, by locking its transparency, which we talked about last time. If you look over here where it says lock, I can simply tap on that very first icon, which represents the transparency. And what this is basically saying is, from this point forward, any edits that I make, anything I do to this layer, okay, whether they're additive or subtractive or whatever, I'm not able to actually add any pixel data. So I couldn't, for example, try and make a shape right here, okay, and fill it with color. Watch, I'll hit Option Delete right now. Option Delete. Nothing happens. However, if I move this circle into an area where there are already pixels, where there's already color, and then I come over to my color wheel here, and we select a different color, okay? And now I hit Option Delete. Well, I was able to make a change. What if I take that same selection and move it partway off of these pixels here and do the same thing, Option Delete? Look what it does. It only affects the area that already had pixel data. So we know we can do that as well, which is really cool. But here's something we didn't talk about last time, which is really fantastic, and that's the ability to transform a part of a layer, all of a layer. And how do you do that? Well, again, I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to show you the best and most powerful and just fastest way to transform an element. Okay? Now you could go to Edit and Transform and go through all these options here, scale, rotate, etc. There's a better way. So here I have this layer and I want to transform it, all right? Command T, or Control T on the PC. Command T. Now what this does is it brings up this bounding box, we call it, for transformations. Hi, folks are joining in. What's up, everybody? Wow, so many people. Hello, nice to see you. Making sure there are no questions here before I keep going. People are sharing their own little ideas here. Great. Oh, hey, okay, cool. Thanks, Bruce. Glad you're enjoying this. All right, so look, Command T. Command T brings up everything at once. Now you have all the good stuff in one place. So what do I mean? Well, if I come over to the corner and I move slightly away from the corner, my cursor changes to show me that I can now rotate. Okay, how convenient. All right, now, if I come over to one of the handles on the sides or corners, I can enlarge or reduce, okay? And normally if you're using Photoshop right out of the box, doing this, okay, is going to scale it so that everything is keeping the same ratio of height to width. That relationship will remain consistent, okay? I have it set to where I hold the Shift key down to do that. Reason being that that's what I'm used to from 25 years of Photoshop use, okay? But you can make those changes in the preferences settings for yourself. If you're on a Mac, you go to Preferences, go to General, and you have the Use Legacy Free Transform option right here. If that's turned off, the moment you go into a transform mode where you're dragging something from a corner to enlarge it or reduce it, it'll keep that ratio. Otherwise, you have to hold down the Shift key to make it not keep the ratio, so I do the reverse. All right, so back to Command T. Now, I just showed you can rotate, okay? If you hold the Shift key down, check it out. Remember what I said about precision? 0, 15, 30, 45. What's going on? We're rotating in increments of 15 degrees. Very nice if you want to get something at a perfect 90, a perfect 45. You can do it. Hold down that Shift key, okay? We show that you can also drag from the handles, right? Command Z. But look what else you can do. Hold down the Command key, or if you're on a PC, the Control key, and grab one of these handles and watch this. Ooh, look at the bounding box. The other 3 corners remain completely fixed in place. So now we're getting into some very cool free transforms, they're called, okay? We'll undo that. What happens if I do that from one of these edges, okay? Look at this, hold it down. Oh, I'm only pulling that side while the other bottom side opposite it remains fixed. Okay, I'm skewing. If you hold down Shift and do this, it's going to skew it along the same horizontal. See that? Very nice. Imagine how you could quickly build in some frames for animation to have something dancing, right? Ba-bump, 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 ba-da-ba-bump. Easy peasy. All right, so that's pretty cool, right? And if you hold it down and do the same thing and drag from the sides, there you go. Same deal. Not bad. And finally, check this out. If I drag from a corner like this, and I hold down the Shift key, look at this. It's going to pull out just that corner, but it's going to lock. It's going to lock right there along the horizontal, okay, as before. I can also do the same pulling down and lock that vertical. Not too shabby. Check this out. Have you ever seen that one? I'm skewing it by holding down the Option key and the Command key. Okay, if you're on a PC, that's Control and Alt. Okay, so that means the opposite corners are going to move away from one another. Okay, same thing this way. All these transformations I'm able to do just with the Command T. Okay? And finally, let's see here if I can remember this one. It's a Control, is it Option? No. Somebody help me with this one. You can do perspective. You can have it shrink or grow with both handles moving towards each other or away from each other. I just haven't done that one in a while. But there is a key command that corresponds to it that allows you to do that as well. Normally under Edit, Transform, that's called perspective. Like this. See that? Etc., etc. But there is a key command for that one as well, and it's escaping me. Throw it in the chat for me, folks, all you Photoshop pros out there. And forgive me for not being able to remember it. Alessandra, these are helpful. Oh, good. I'm glad to hear it. I hope they are. All right, so folks, what are we talking about here? Look at all this power I have. It's just, I'm just, the power is just oozing from my fingertips, okay? With these key commands, it's amazing. So I can move things along, okay? And hey, wait a second. How am I doing this? I bet somebody now knows how I'm dragging perfectly along the horizontal when I try and move something, or perfectly along the vertical. Who can tell me what I'm doing there? I know what you're doing, Kyle. You're using the Shift key. And look, I just got the information. Control Alt. Nope, doesn't work for me. For the perspective, that's what I was being told. But it's not working for me. Nope, it's not working for me. Must be something else. Oh well, we'll figure it out. Okay, but back to what I was saying. Look at this power. I'm drunk with power. Move it around. Command T. I can rotate it. Okay, hit Command or Enter to commit that. And there, just line that up there like that. Now, remember a moment ago when we made a selection, we hit Command J, and what did that do? It took the selected area from one layer, made a copy of it on a separate layer. But what else can you do with Command J? Well, what if I don't have anything selected? You can instantly duplicate the entire layer. So I've got this little guy here, and I just want to copy, okay, that. But I want it to be in exactly the same place. So I hit Command J, and again, it might not look like anything happened, but look at this. I've got a duplicate. I've got a duplicate. All right, now I'll just slide it up over this way, okay? And here's another little trick. I want to flip it vertically. Flip it vertically. Edit. Transform. Flip vertical. Ta-da! How am I going to put it over there? Use my arrow keys to place it right in the corner, like so. Grab that little circle. Making some kind of like fishy kind of animal or something. I don't know what we're doing here. Okay, but this is what I'm able to do. Now hang on. I told you about efficiency. I want you to be able to do things so fast. So a moment ago, I selected this little guy, okay? And what did I do? I hit Command J and that copied it. Okay, but. Why don't we do it even faster? So I've got that layer selected. Are you ready? Hold down the Option key or the Alt key. Now look, I have my Move tool selected. Remember, that's V. If I hit V, I've got my Move tool selected. There it is, okay? Hold down the Option key. And look how my cursor changes. It goes from a regular black arrow to a black arrow overlapping a white arrow, which tells me something's about to get duplicated. Ta-da! Not only was I able to duplicate it, but it went on its own layer, just like Command J. So I'm skipping steps here. Instead of having to hit Command J and then move it, I just hold down the Option key and bam, whatever layer I have selected, I'm making a copy of it. Okay? Hold down the Option key, bam, make another one. And look at Photoshop trying to help me out with the distances. See that? It's like, oh, do you want these to be equidistant from one another? Look how fast I can do that. Now it's kind of like a rocket ship blasting through space, right? Option key, hold it down and just start clicking and dragging and you are good to go. Pretty cool, right? Pausing for questions. Shift Control Alt, says Robert. Everyone's in a battle here to find out and share how to use the perspective transformation. Well, let's see if you're right. Here comes the big test, okay? I'm going to make this rectangle right here. Command T, and you say Shift Control Alt. Let's try it. Shift Control Alt. Oh, stop pulling up that menu for me. There it is. So I'm on a Mac, so I had to do Shift, Option, Command, and now I've got it. Shift, Option, Command. Shift, Option, Command. There it is. Ta-da! Thank you. You solved it. I love it. All right, pretty powerful stuff. Command T, free transform. Does everything you need. All right, so now, quickly, we've just covered a lot of territory. Let's rewind for a moment and let's see what we've just learned together, okay? What have we done? We are able to make a selection, fill it with color, okay? Why don't I take all these layers, hold down the Shift key, go from top to bottom, select them all. Command G, magic, I've grouped them all together. I'm gonna hide them for a second. We're gonna review, here we go. Make a selection, Option Delete, fill it with color, okay? We can then take an area that we select, hold down the Command key and move it, and what happens? Well, we've moved it, but it's on the same layer. Remember that, remember that. What if we want it to be on a separate layer? What do we do? Command J. Now I got just that section there. What if you want to make that selection, okay, and you want to copy paste? Well, the same as, you know, working in Word or any other application, right? Command X, Command V, right? It's always going to paste it in the center of your dock. Okay, so there it is. Now I've cut it out of there and I've pasted it and it's on its own layer. Okay. What about if I want to take this and I want to duplicate it? Command J. I've just duplicated the entire thing, all the contents of that layer. What if I want to change part of the colors of it? Okay, lock that layer transparency right there. Lock that layer. Change the color. Okay, grab this area right here. Option delete. It's only going to change the colors that are there already on that layer. Okay. Command J. Copy it again. Let's move it over here. Let's transform it. Command T. Rotate it. Hold down the Shift key and rotate it exactly 45 degrees. Hit return. Okay. Now I've committed to that transform. Move it over here to the corner, like so. Zoom in on that. And I think that pretty much covers it, right? We've done a lot of good stuff there. We're able to do a lot of things there. Move, transform, select, copy, paste. Command J, duplicate the contents, okay? Lock the layer transparency. All these things. This is very powerful. All right, now we haven't even gotten to the next tool for today, which is absolutely one of my favorites. Got a little preview of it earlier today. The Lasso tool. The Lasso tool. What an amazing tool. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna hide all these. And let's take a look at our friend the Lasso tool. Now there it is, right there. Third one in line. Okay. What do you think is the key command to call up the Lasso tool? I'll take a sip of coffee while I wait. Giddy up, says Steve. That's funny. Lasso. I get it. Good old Lasso tool, Sam. The cowboy tool. Nobody's giving me the key command? It's the letter L, of course. When you hit L, you're going to get your Lasso tool. Now, the Lasso tool allows me to freely draw on the canvas and create a selection, like so. And just like your marquee tools, well, same things apply here, where you can make a selection, you can option delete, you can do whatever you want, okay, to make it fill with color. And just like the other selection tools, holding down the option key means I can remove an area, okay, remove an area, etc. I can hold down the Shift key and I can add an area, okay, add an area. Very nice, very powerful stuff, okay, very powerful stuff. Now, there are two kinds of Lasso tool that I use all the time. One is this. This is like the freeform Lasso tool, the freehand Lasso tool, whatever you want to call it. This is where you just draw freely, and make a shape. As soon as you let go, okay, it's going to snap back to wherever you started. Okay, so if I were to do this and let go, see that? Snaps right back to the beginning. Okay, option delete. There's my shape. Now, let's take a look at the polygonal Lasso tool. That's the other tool that we have. Shift L. Remember what that does? It toggles through the subtools in a tool. So I have the Lasso, I have the polygonal Lasso. I'm just shifting through, okay? Instead of having to travel over here and hold down this and go Lasso tool, polygonal, no, I don't want to do that. I just want to grab it by using my key command to do so. Now this one, you tap anywhere, and every time you tap, you are going to add a new point on the screen where you can then change direction and create a shape. So this is straight edge selections, right? Now, Remember what I told you earlier about how important it is up top to learn the good stuff, okay, instead of waiting. And I know it's a lot, but remember, write these down. Last time I said, have a little notebook for yourself, a little notebook where you write down the keyboard shortcuts, and you can study those, you can go back to them anytime you forget. And after a little while, they're all just going to click, and you're going to know all these cool things that you can do. Okay, so here's the cool trick for today about the Lasso tool. We know how the Lasso tool works. It's pretty self-explanatory. You make a shape, okay, and you fill it with color. Do whatever you want. That's fine. What if you want to combine this ability to draw with straight lines and the ability to draw with the more curvilinear lines? You want to be able to do both. You don't want to have to switch tools to do it. You don't have to switch tools to do it. Okay, making a new layer for you. I currently have the polygonal lasso tool selected. Okay, so watch this. I'm going to go tap, 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 and now I say, okay, part of this area I want to select, I want to be curvilinear. What do? Hold down the Option key from this point, hold it down, and then start drawing. Okay? Lift up my stylus, let go of the Option key, and now continue to draw with the polygonal. Now I want to complete it with a curvilinear, so I hold down the Option key, draw, and complete my selection. You can do this both ways. If you have the regular lasso tool selected and you hold down the Option key in the way that I just showed you, it's going to bounce over to the polygonal lasso tool temporarily. Okay? So that's your super magic cool trick that you can do with the lasso tool. You would be amazed what percentage of people who've been working with Photoshop for 20 plus years do not know that you can do this. It's a pretty cool thing. Okay? Option delete, there's my shape. Okay, what is it? I don't know, some kind of crazy organism of some kind. Steve, you like it when I paint with just a lasso tool? Well, thanks, that's something I love to do. Yes, so L. L is the keyboard key. You just hit L and you're automatically on your lasso. L. I'm going to change my color. I'm going to make a little red here. And then I'm just going to do this. I'm going to go tap, 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 and fill that with color. Now, look, I'm going to go over here. I'm going to grab some blue. Okay, and I'm going to do over here another shape. Okay, now, I pause for a moment and go, oh, you know what I want to do? I want to use that red again. I really want to use that red again. Oh, but you know what? I can't over here like get it exactly right. How am I supposed to find that color again? So the long way to do it is you open up the color picker either here or down here. You open it up, okay? And you move outside of the color picker window to your document, and it automatically calls up what we call the eyedropper tool, which allows you to hover over any part of your document, tap, and instantly get that color. That's fine. We need to be faster, don't we? We're looking for efficiency here. What do you do? What do you do? So when you're working with any other tool, what you can do is you can hold down the I key. Look, it's my eyedropper. I'm holding it down, move anywhere I like, grab that blue. When I let go of the I key, it bounces me right back to the tool I'm actively using. See that? So now I'm right back to that lasso, and I can make another selection and fill it with that color. Alrighty. So that is the secret there. You have to hold down the I key. Think about eyedropper. It's spelled incorrectly, but I, the letter I, hold it down. Now later when we get to some other tools, when you're using the brush tool, for example, you do not have to hold down the I key. You can hold down the Option key for the same functionality. That'll work beautifully for you, okay? But when using any tool and you need to bounce quickly to the eyedropper, hold down the I key, okay? Any questions about anything at all? No questions that I'm seeing, which means I must be explaining things well. Well, that makes me very happy. So I promised you that we would do a little drawing, okay? Combining all of these little tricks and techniques. Let's review. Let's see what we've got here. So we have Lasso tool, which allows me to go ahead and make any kind of shape I want just by drawing it on the canvas. All right. We have, if I hit the M key, my rectangular marquee tool. Shift M is going to toggle me to my elliptical marquee tool. I'm holding down Shift now to draw these other little shapes, okay? Right? So we have circles, we have squares, we have rectangles, we have ellipses, we have organic shapes. We have, with the lasso tool, the polygonal lasso tool, I can hold down Shift and I can make shapes like this, right? With straight edge. I can combine the two using the Option key, as I showed you a moment ago. If you look at what's on the canvas right now, okay? If you look at what I've got here, what I have are the ingredients that are necessary for drawing anything. Think about it. I can draw any shape I want just with these selection tools and the ability to fill color. And inside of any of these shapes, remember, I can be very selective, with my selection tools to then modify parts of those shapes by using the option to lock transparency, right? Before we get into anything else, the last little cool thing I'm going to show you today, okay, is the option to feather selections. So you're looking at this and going, yeah, Kyle, that's fine, but you know, not everything in life has a hard edge. Some things are soft and fuzzy, okay? Look at clouds, for example, okay? You're drawing a sky, and part of the cloud, usually around the top, maybe is more defined, but maybe towards the bottom it kind of fades a little bit into the sky. And you say, well, I want to be able to do that. Well, we're not yet talking about brushes and all kinds of cool stuff like that, are we? But we're still going to be able to do that if we feather selections. And all you have to think about feathering, to know about feathering rather, is that this is an ability you have to tell Photoshop by exactly how many pixels you want to extend a selection, okay, by softening it step by step by step and deleting away the hard quality of the edge of that selection. Let's take a look. So we have all this stuff right here on the canvas. I just made these selections, okay? Let's take, for example, this square shape right here, all right? I'm going to use my elliptical marquee tool. Now, I've got the selection tool here. Remember what this is? This is the tool properties window, okay? So right up here at panel, this panel at the top of the screen, no matter what tool I select, watch, I'll come down here, it changes. Come down here, it changes. Properties for the selected tool. Right now we have a marquee tool, and right over here we have feathering. So let's go ahead and let's give that a value. It's currently 0. When it's 0, it means, hey, everything you do is going to have a hard edge. We're not going to mess around with any of this soft business, okay? But now we're going to mess with that. I'm going to give it a value of 40, and when I hit enter, it fills in the pixels for me, 40 px, okay? Now, let's come over here, and let's make a little selection right here in the corner of our circle. And a 1, 2, 3, I'm going to hit Option Delete. Oh my goodness, see what happened? Well, that's different, isn't it? What happened there? How did it do that? Let's go back for a moment. Now, I've got the selection active, and you can see the result. You'll remember that I assigned a value of 40 pixels to the feathering. When you look at the selection, it's important to understand how this works, and I want you to understand it now, not later. We're going to do this now as soon as possible. the numbers have to mean something to you. So when you see 40, you go, well, what does 40 mean? Here are the boundaries of my selection. 40 pixels going in which direction? Well, here's the answer. If you zoom in, okay, I can look from here to here, okay? And what I'm going to find if I were to draw an additional selection here, okay? See that? I'm going to stop at 40 right there. Blammo. 40 pixels away from the boundary of that selection is where those soft feathering effects are going to end, okay? As well as, hold on a minute, $40 pixels in this direction. So that feathering is happening kind of across the center of the selected area, okay? Both directions, value of 40. And that's the softness that we're going to get. It's good to know this so that when you do use these numbers, when you assign a pixel value to something, you kind of can predict what you're going to get. All right, so let's deselect that and undo that for a moment. And now let's get really precise, okay? So let's say, for example, I was talking about clouds a moment ago. Why don't we just do this? We'll fill this layer with a blue color, okay? Nice sky blue color, like so. We'll make a new layer, and now I want to do some kind of a cloud shape. Let's do it. Let me show you how I would do this. I'm going to start with my Lasso tool, okay? The feathering factor is 0 currently, all right? And I'm just going to make it something very small, like 10 pixels, all right? And then I'm going to go ahead and make my nice little cloud shape like this. And I'm going to, at the bottom, leave a bunch of extra space like that. All this stuff down here is going to go away, all right? So bear with me here. I'm going to hit Command Delete, which is white, okay? And that's going to fill in the cloud there. Now what I want is this whole bottom area, I want to be much softer, much softer. Okay, so check this out. I'm going to increase the feathering value now. Okay, I'm not going to use a big number. I'm going to say 120 pixels. 120 pixels. That's a lot. And what I'm going to do is select this area, and instead of filling it with color, I'm going to be deleting. Okay, so check it out. Here we go. Start here. And I'm just going to kind of come in through this way and do a little bit of that. Thinking about like kind of drawing that bottom bit of the cloud and selecting this whole area. And then I'm going to hit delete a few times. There we go. 1, 2, 3. Ah. See the effect there? That's more like it. Look at that. So soft. Just goes right into the sky. Now, check this out. This is the magic. Command T, move it over here, okay? Remember what happens if I have my move tool and I hold down the option key? Kablamo. I can duplicate it. I can transform it, and watch this craziness. What? I just inverted it by pulling it right across, distort it this way, pop it right there. Okay. And now we've got 2 little clouds right there. Fantastic. All right. See that? Make one asset, duplicate it, transform it, and now you've got a couple of clouds in the sky. So just like that, I've created a nice little sky. All right. And I can create another layer right on top, use my Lasso tool, take care of that feather and get it back down to 0, right? Make a little shape down here. There's our little land right there. No problemo. Okay. We go then, we make another layer behind all that. And we just make ourselves a little foliage there. Okay, we go a little darker, like so. Grab my elliptical marquee tool, hold down the Shift key, okay? Throw a little sun right there, see that? And you're off to the races, gang. Not bad, right? Not bad. Grab that green, fill it in. Lock the layer transparency right here. Whoops. And we make a nice little path. And there's your finished illustration. Wow. It's amazing how fast these things can happen. Thank you for watching, folks. We'll be back again next week with another one. Till then, take care of yourselves, take care of each other. Remember to be kind, and I'll say ciao for now.